a facilitator of healing and life coach, finds herself guiding her husband, a high-powered New York City attorney, to write a book about his observations of unexplainable phenomenon titled The Reluctant Healer.
I agree, and that's why we're pollinating the planet with love.
Yeah, that's why. Yes.
I'm curious how you see your work and the book all fit into helping pollinating the planet with love.
Because I think if people read that, expand, they're more open, they'll learn more, they'll realize that love is the highest frequency, and that with that love coming around them and in them and using it to pivot them for their life, they'll find happiness, they'll find balance, they'll be attuned, they'll be healthy. I'm not saying perfect health because there is karma. I believe in karma, and you have to work out your karma. There are all kinds of karma, but love is what will really help navigate this planet.
Okay, I'm here with my next guest, Michele the Gamba-Himmel. And are you ready to go into the Pollinating the Planet with Love recording studio? Okay.
Can't wait.
Okay, here we go.
Welcome everyone to the Pollinating the Planet with Love show. I'm your host, Beth Bell, and we're here to talk about those life journey lessons and of course those pearls of wisdom that we learn along the way. Today's guest, Michele the Gamba-Himmel, graduated from Stanford University with a Bachelor of Arts in Art and Psychology and a Master of Arts in Education. For many years, she studied with various well-known photographers, has worked in marketing, launching cosmetics and the Capsella toy in over 22 countries, and has been meditating for over 30 years. She has studied the techniques of mankind, enlightenment and love, and is a universal energy practitioner as well as a certified medical Qigong healer. Most recently, she was initiated into the group of Master Angels. So welcome.
Thank you.
I love having angels in the recording studio helping us to pollinate the planet with love. But before we get there, because there's a lot on this life journey that is so miraculous, what did you think you were going to be when you were a little girl? And are you doing that now?
I always was an artist, and so I was always channeling art in different ways. And eventually, when I was a sophomore at Stanford, my father traveled to the Orient and brought back this camera and said, "Can you please figure out how to use this?" Well, needless to say, he never got it back. And I started to pursue photography, and I was so fascinated by it because it was a study of light and how light hit surfaces. And most
So was it buildings or?
it was usually spaces where I really felt the presence of other beings that either were about to enter the space or left the space or were actually in the space, but we didn't see it. So it kind of hinted that there was something in the visible realm that was attracting me for some reason. So.
Interesting. So you kind of have incorporated what you thought you were going to be when you were little into what you're doing today, but I can't imagine that the breadth of what you've gotten into is at all what a small child could even think about being.
No, in the last 15 years, absolutely not. But as a younger child, I always had kind of odd and strange experiences that my parents would not really pay attention to. They'd say, "Oh, it was just a dream," or this or that, but they were definitely unusual, mystical
anything
experiences.
you can share about that? Is there anything that comes to mind that's...
Well, I remembered very young what my first memory was. I remember telling my mother that what happened to my grandmother's green and white big checked dress. And she said, "How did you know about that dress?" I said, "That's the dress she came to see me in when I was born in the hospital." And she said, "But that was when black and white photography was just not color yet." So she said, "How did you?" I said, "I remember." And I remembered looking at my grandmother's face and having thoughts.
Wow. And this is what age?
That I remembered that I was maybe 10 or 11.
Right.
And when I was starting to become more conscious, but to have a memory when you were just born, the veil wasn't lifted yet, and you were later I studied all of this and figured out, oh, that's why that was, and that's how I remembered that, and this and that. So,
yeah, interesting. Okay, so you sounds like you've had many mystical experiences at a young age. At what point did you start to feel like you were embracing them? Because I think a lot of people kind of go through this period of others not thinking that it's normal. Get normal, be normal, don't think those things.
I not until very recently, in the last few decades, because I always felt like I was different.
Yeah.
Having these unusual experiences, you're not really part of it was harder to find my tribe of people. I never had a lot of friends, except maybe one friend that I found related to me. So I think it was a journey to come into who I really truly was and am, and then embracing it as something not as a hardship, but as a gift.
Yes.
And
and now as a mother, because I think our parents say to us, "Oh, you're a dreamer," or "It's your imagination," for purposes of good intention, typically. But then, as a mother, did you have any experiences with your child where they might have been a little bit more in those other realms and the veil was a little thinner? And
absolutely. When she was born, I was, and by the way, I wasn't supposed to even have a child. I had something physically impairing, and I think it was all sent. And this child chose me, and yes, let's see, early with our daughter Nicole, she was only 7 when she was diagnosed with only 70% of her lung capacity. And the doctor said there was nothing to do, you cannot correct this, you have to live with this, and here's an inhaler to always have as an emergency, and put her on allergy medicine every day for the rest of her life.
Oh, wow.
And
that's a lot.
that was just, I felt like bricks fell on me. And I said, no, somehow I knew that wasn't going to be the case. And I would just teach her how to breathe and calm down when she couldn't get a deep breath.
Right.
And we had her analyzed in New York at the head of Mount Sinai, and then the head at Stanford Children's Hospital. I was teaching visual literacy that summer, and we had a terrible fire in our building. And a friend told me about this healer who she found for her husband who had melanoma but didn't want surgery. He was very vain. And I said, who's this healer? So I made an appointment with him just randomly. I wanted to find out how he healed her husband. And he was my first teacher. And the experience was mystical in itself. It was like if you ever saw the movie Alice with Mia Farrow many years ago. Anyway, you walk in this little yard, and this little Asian man comes to you, and there are chimes and little statues all around, and he takes me into this room with incense, and he says, have you ever gotten a healing before? And at that time I didn't.
Right.
And this was quite a few years ago. And so I said, well, I don't need a healing. I'm not sick. And he said, everyone needs a healing. And he laid me down, and he said, don't worry, I won't touch you. You don't have to take your clothes off. And I remember seeing these grapes. It was in California, and grapes outside this window. And he gave me this healing, and after the healing, he left the room. There was a mirror, and he said, I'll come back when your soul comes back into your body. And I could not even raise my hands, my legs. But I remember looking at these grapes thinking, they look really good and really clear to me now. And then he came in magically when I was able, I thought that it was a two-way mirror. My New York skeptical Stanford trained brain was just working 100 million miles in a second there. And he came in and he said, I've been waiting such a long time to get back to you. And I thought, oh, yes. And he says...
And this is someone you've never met.
Never met. But it was like...
been waiting for you.
Waiting for me. I felt like it was like galaxies are waiting for me. And I said, right. And I'm thinking, who, right? And he talked to me for 3 hours, and I started to train with him. And I brought my daughter to him that week because I wanted to see what he did with my eyes open, because my eyes were closed during the healing. So he did it for my daughter, and he asked her what was wrong with what fear she had. And she said sometimes when she takes a deep breath, she couldn't breathe. So she left the room, and he said to me, I'm going to teach you something that you'll do to her for 2.5 months, and she will recover. And to him, we went back to New York. 2.5 months later, almost to the day, I hear her scream, Mommy! And I run to her room, and she says, watch. And it was a deep breath. I brought her back to Mount Sinai. I brought her back to Stanford a year later. Children's Hospital, 100% of her breath there. Wow. So it worked. Yeah. So I said, this really works. And a college, this is another great story, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I love
it. A college friend from Stanford, who's the president of our class and always gave like huge donations every year to Stanford, said, I called her up when I got back home because our reunion was coming up. So I won't say what number reunion was coming up, but okay, no disclosure with that. But she said, Michele, I saw you coming to this. To this, why weren't you at this party? Yeah. And she said, I have the worst case of poison ivy. I was infected with it in my yard, and I've seen 5 different dermatologists in New York, the best. They give me all these creams, so it's not away, and I'm really nervous because a reunion at Stanford's coming up soon. And she said, what have you been doing? I said, I learned how to heal people. And she said, what do you mean? I said, well, heal remotely, but I never tried the remote healing. But why don't I try it on you? She said, well, what do I have to do? I said, you don't have to do anything. You just go lay down, and I'll work on you. And so I worked on her that day, and then I worked on her because I was a rookie. For 3 days in a row, I wanted to be sure I was doing it right. And then I went to Stanford like a week and a half, 2 weeks later for my reunion, and we were at this reception with the president of the university, and she was shaking his hand. Okay. She was on the other side, and I thought, it must have worked because she's shaking the hand. And I waved to her, like, and then she leaves him, runs over to me, she says, whatever you did that day, like within 2 hours, they started to disappear. The next day, they were almost gone. And by the 3rd day, they were completely gone. Thank you. I have to learn how to do that. I said, I'll be happy to teach you. I'd love to teach everyone how to do this. So that
that's an amazing story.
That's what started my, and when
you said something, and I know from what I've read about you that it's actually a really pivotal moment, that your place burned down.
Yes.
And that's a pivotal thing.
It was a wake-up call.
It was one of the things that introduced you to the
healer. Exactly.
But tell us a little bit more about that experience, because that's a pretty big deal.
That was also a cosmic experience. My life has been okay. Well, when I'm half Italian and half Jewish, I had two Jewish grandmothers and 2 Italian Catholic grandfathers. So I grew up with everything: Christmas, Hanukkah, Passover, Easter. And when I went to Stanford, I studied the Kabbalah and Buddhism. So for me, religion was more of a spiritual experience. It didn't matter what it was or who was the god or believed as the leader of whatever it is, belief system. So the night of the fire, before we didn't know.
New York City.
In New York City.
Apartment building, 19
stories high, a luxury apartment building with only 3 apartments on each floor.
Right.
Home-owning, substantial, safe apartment building, supposedly. That night I was with Andrew, and it was a lovely night, one of the best nights we had. And I was going to sleep, and Nicole was sleeping in her room, and I remember...
How old was she at that time?
At that time she must have been 11, I think 11. And we were going to sleep, and I put in a prayer. My grandmother, who raised me with my mother, died 3 months after my daughter was born, so she never got to see her. So it's something that still aches me. And I put a prayer into her that night to say, please give me a sign you're watching over me. And then I went to sleep. And then at 4:15 in the morning, I had a slap across my face. And we have a big bed, and my husband was on the other side. And I recalled in the Jewish religion, when a woman, a young girl, has her period, the grandmother or mother gives the slap. It's not dramatic enough to be,
kind of like when you slap a baby's bottom and then they're born or something.
Yeah, it's like
a
why
big change.
traumatize? It's traumatizing
Okay, yes.
enough. But my grandmother did that and she said, it's tradition, and then hugged me. But that was who slapped. That slap
Oh my goodness.
was what she did when I was 13. And I said,
now
Grandma,
you're laying in bed,
now I'm
and
laying
now
in
you're
bed,
feeling this at 4.
and now I'm saying, why'd you wake me up? Is that the sign? I got up, and I smelled tobacco, which is highly unusual because we had a corner apartment. We never smell or hear anyone. And I opened up the hallway, and it was full of smoke and white smoke. I couldn't see. Called down to my doorman, said, call 911, there's a fire and we have to get out. And I grabbed my daughter, I wet a towel like in the movies, and we made it out of the building, and the fire alarms didn't go off. And 15 minutes, the fireman said 15 minutes later, had we been sleeping, we would have died of carbon monoxide poisoning.
Yeah.
So we
did
get
and
out.
I know that there was some devastation that came from that, but we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Blossom Bliss products are designed to help empower pure love and purpose in your life. It's through the power of words, flowers, and symbols that our products assist you in creating a blissful life. The power of words in our mini mantra word bar necklaces assist you in setting and blossoming your personal intentions. The affirmation cards leverage the power of flowers by providing daily inspiration. And the power of symbols in our life journey bracelets are great reminders of the things that bring us peace, joy, and love. Products are made and blessed in Bali with love by Balinese artisans who work with empowered hearts. When you purchase jewelry with a bee charm, we donate to save the bees. Join us in pollinating the planet with love. Go to our website, blossomblissbali.com. Again, that's blossomblissbali.com.
Okay, we're back, and I have Michele Gamba-Himmel with me. And we were just talking about a really devastating time in your life that I think turned into something, well, I don't know if I'd say it turned into something beautiful, but it gave some beautiful opportunities. So you're on the 19th floor, New York City, luxury high-rise building. Everything should have all the stopgaps in place to keep the building from burning down. Right. You smell something, you go out, it's completely smoky. You and your 11-year-old daughter and husband make it out, but some other things happen.
We made it out, and that summer I was teaching at Stanford, and I knew I had to get my soul back. And it prompted that meeting with that healer, because I felt like when a fire, it's like Phoenix rises. Yeah. I mean, all of what you were is burned down. Yeah. Our neighbors died. Their 5 cats died. Their whole apartment was like charcoal. Thank goodness I caught it at the time. We just had smoke.
How many floors were burned? Just out of curiosity.
Just their apartment. It was contained because I smelled it in time. I saved.
Well, your grandmother woke you up.
Yes, my grandmother saved. I shouldn't take the credit, Grandma Sophie. She saved the day.
Wow.
So, but it did prompt me to go to see my first teacher, who I had no idea was my teacher from the past or past lives, and he was able to talk to my soul even though I wasn't physically sick. And he said to me after he gave me that healing was, you had a very rough year and your soul really needed to go through that. Yeah. So I began the journey of learning healing from him, universal energy, tapping into energies that are available for everyone to reach out. And I mean, I learned it, but learning it, just like if you have long, skinny fingers, you're better at the piano. If you have a certain system from meditating so many years, I had clear energy pathways, so I was a better conductor of it.
Right.
And you know, when I say we all have the ability to heal, I speak of we're just the lamps conducting the electricity, that it's really God, the Creator, that's doing it. Even the angels who heal, they're getting it from the Creator.
So at the time of the fire, you were very open spiritually, or you were, it was really not until that healer experience, and then you really were like, whoa, there's something that really going on here. Okay.
Really opened my eyes. And then when Nicole was healed by his teachings, and that just started a whole awareness and healing, and I started to heal people and started to teach people how to heal, and just So now at the same time, you're married to a New York City attorney, which there's a lot of maybe archetypal things we could sort of pin on a New York City attorney. And he kind of was the quintessential attorney at that point, wasn't he? You know, he is an attorney, and you can pin that on, but he was a musician inside and an artist inside. And when I met him and married him, we went out and we broke up, and then we got together. He had written a song for me that was incredible. He said he couldn't name it Michele because it was taken, but he called it Waiting for Michele. And I truly returned to him, and he's a very sensitive soul, and he's not a typical lawyer, although he's a brilliant lawyer. He had a priest or pastor in New York City. He does employment law as well as litigation, come to him because he was getting ousted from his congregation, this beat up old apartment on the Lower East Side, and he couldn't even pay him, but he said he'd pay him through the years and send him money. So Andrew took it on, and every week we'd get like an envelope with $5 or $10 in it, cash, in the mail, from this man, from this pastor, until he paid out. I think it took 12 years, but he paid it out. So not many lawyers would do that. So Andrew does have this very skeptical side, but this underlying heart and soul of music and writing that is more sensitive than that typical stereotype.
Do you think that was what drew you guys together? Because what I understand, it was a pretty dynamic meeting, and you guys were kind of...
it was very full of sparks, and then he didn't call me, typical guy, right, in New York. And I went on a vacation to Buenos Aires, and he went on a vacation to Puerto Rico. I came back with a new boyfriend.
Love it.
So yes, I came back with a boyfriend, and he came over. It was Valentine's Day, and he sent me a big bouquet that was the size of this, and with a sandwich, because he was going to take me for lunch, but he said, here's a sandwich. I'm busy in the middle of a case, but if you ever change your mind to give me a second chance, please do.
Oh, how cute, yeah.
Very cute. And a year later, he had a girlfriend, I broke up. It was at the same time, and I said, why did you break up? And he said, well, she asked me why.
Oh, he had a girlfriend, but he broke up at the same time that you were breaking up. Okay, okay.
And she said, why can't you commit? At that time, we were in our 30s. We weren't all little 20-year-olds. And he said, well, I'm in love with another woman. I said, oh, my God. Wow. And he wrote me a song, and it began a whole thing again. And the first time we made love, we conceived Nicole, which was really shocking since I wasn't supposed to. So everything, I think, I just couldn't ignore, even from the beginning of our marriage and a relationship, that it just kind of came together in such a cosmic, supercharged way.
Yeah, so you get married at that point,
So
or
we
have a baby?
Well, it was a little bumpy up. I
Okay.
mean, he was a controlling lawyer, left brain saying, what? And I said, that's okay, I'll have it myself. And it ended, that ended. He asked me to marry him, and I said to him, why?
Right.
And he said, I think we could have a really good relationship, and that takes what it takes to have a marriage. And I said, I'll meditate on it and let you know tomorrow. So I did meditate on it, and it was the first time, and I had been meditating quite some time, where I saw a yin-yang sign, and I thought, this must be a yes. So I did, because in the world of spirit and symbiology, it's a whole different level of interpretation. It's not English, it's not Chinese, it's telepathic cues, it's angel whispers, it's a whole different thing that you need to learn. If you're committed to the spiritual realm, you develop a sense of communication.
And I like that, because I think there are a lot of couples that are sort of opposites attract, and not that you were opposites, but there was different elements about each other. But then you have the fire, because you got married, and then the child, and then you had the fire, and then you really, it sounds like, went off into a whole different trajectory. So how did that impact, your spiritual awakening, if you want to call it that, and also your relationship? Did that, like, what was priority there, and how did that work?
I like to think of myself as a multitasker, multidimensional being, and I was able to handle both, because Andrew never stopped me. He always supported you. If I needed to go to a sacred place, our vacations became all about sacred places or energy vortexes, and suddenly he said, where are we going? And we have to climb a Machu Picchu and all these places. And he was used to a different kind of vacation, and so was I, but it just took me the other ways, and he would come, and then after he would experience it, he'd say, that was really interesting, or that was really great. And it was so funny, because one year I took Andrew and Nicole to the middle of the jungle to have an experience with John of God in Brazil, and we're staying, they have these little posadas, they call them, which are hotels, but really not. They're like little rooms with very simple beds, and you get 3 meals a day, and there are no dishwashers, and there are a lot of parasites in Brazil. And I mean, it was really, we were in this little cottage, and there were lizards on the ceiling, and Andrew was like freaking out. What were you thinking? And we go to dinner for the first evening at the dining room, and there's from his brother's company, the CFO, who was at the same hotel.
Interesting.
And he had no idea. He was a proper British, brilliant man with his wife, and they were there because their son-in-law had MS, and they wanted to see if they could affect it by prayers and showing the picture to John of God, which they did lately, totally cured. In fact, it wasn't MS. I work with so many people. It was 4th stage cancer, and it got totally remission after they did their prayers there. So it was great, because at least Andrew had. It was like the angels, God, whoever you want to believe in or believe in, they were just orchestrating a path for him that was so obvious to me. But he's like, what are the odds? That's so random. And I kept saying, nothing's random. Nothing's random. Okay.
Yes,
nothing's
I'm familiar.
right. So yes, it was difficult on one level to have this dynamic going, because I was so immersed and speeding at the rate of light on it, and being downloaded with all kinds of energies and abilities, and he was staying at the same place, so it was honestly, frustration.
Most times this ends in divorce.
Yes.
At this juncture, because don't have the connection on the level that you're able to be connected. So how did you navigate that?
I think I navigated it because I felt at that point very hopeful that he would have enough of these experiences in his lives and he would become awakened.
Right.
But it was slower than that.
Because we all know that everyone's going to awaken in their own time, right?
Exactly. It's
Despite,
divine time. It's not our time, and it's the soul time. So yes, I just felt like it was part of the form of where I was supposed to be and what I was supposed to be doing for my own evolution, because I believe that everyone really grows the most through relationships.
Yes, I agree.
And they are the hardest, toughest. I mean, strangers are easy. You could love them. You could have leave them. You could just have a great, light, fun time and be loved for a moment and feel really good about yourself. But when you get into the nitty-gritty every day of a relationship where it's uncomfortable and you want to go and you say, why am I staying? And having a child helped have me work it out more. Yeah. I had married later, and I had a very exciting life, traveling the globe and being pursued by all kinds of CEOs and princes and artists, and just I had a very interesting life. So I did have that past where I quenched my thirst about relationships and men. And then here I had this child, and I had a good husband, solid, who was different. And I really kept trying, just being more patient. I remember actually when I got married to him, I heard, this is going to be your lessons in patience. And it will be a 40-year lesson. That's what I heard.
Right.
And then I'm a clairaudient and clairsentient. I feel things, energy fields, and I hear things, guidance. But I said 40 years. I'm married 27 years, so I did most of it. So I'm working through it. It's a process, and you need to do that, everyone, if they want to truly evolve out of this planet, which is very dense and 50-50 polarity. It's good, it's bad, it's happy, it's sad, it's, you have to suffer, then you get this and that. I mean, it's a drag. The building, keep painting, and then paint it again, and paint it again, and clean the floor, and more dust. And it's just, there are planets in the system, in the universe, where there's 80, 20, there are even some 100. But to get there, you've got to really, that's why people meditate through lifetimes, gurus, how many lifetimes it takes to get to enlightenment.
Yes.
If you're really interested to go far, you'll just clean up yourself by relating with the hard things, moving the shadows that we all have in different ways at different times.
Yes. Okay, so you just said some really important things, relating with the shadow, with the hard things, right? Those are, I think, sometimes the biggest areas of opportunity. Now, I know you've had some big ones in your own life, but we're going to take a quick break and come back, and I want to hear all about them.
Okay.
Blossom Bliss products are designed to help empower pure love and purpose in your life. It's through the power of words, flowers, and symbols that our products assist you in creating a blissful life. The power of words in our mini mantra word bar necklaces assist you in setting and blossoming your personal intentions. The affirmation cards leverage the power of flowers by providing daily inspiration. And the power of symbols in our life journey bracelets are great reminders of the things that bring us peace, joy, and love. Products are made and blessed in Bali with love by Balinese artisans who work with empowered hearts. When you purchase jewelry with a bee charm, we donate to save the bees. Join us in pollinating the planet with love. Go to our website, blossomblissbali.com. Again, that's blossomblissbali.com.
Okay, we're back, and we were just before the break going to talk about some of the difficulties in your life and how you've overcome these, because I think sometimes people get stuck in like the crap that happens in life, and they stay in that vibration of the victim, and when we can leverage it and really blossom it into what is the lesson here. Is there anything you're willing to share from your own personal journey?
Let's see. Well, just marriage in general is very hard. And for all those women out there, don't give up hope. To get married at whatever age, I was well into my 30s, and I had almost given up. I married a man younger than I am, with a lot of hair, and he was very fit, at least then. No, he's not so bad now. But it's just in-soul time. What's difficult? You know, I'm a person that believes. I just photographed the sunset in Santa Monica, and it had a cloud over it, and it had the most vibrating high frequency of the silver lining behind the cloud. So I believe in silver linings. So every hardship, you know, I'm learning. When we had the fire, his father had a stroke, and my father had a heart attack, all within a 3-month period.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot.
So our marriage really was tested. And we even said, if we survive all of this, we'll probably survive anything during the marriage. But it did become harder before it came easier with him, because I kept hoping he would, you know, feel the vibrations if we went to a certain forest in the redwoods and the vortex, or if he would see an angel. I kept saying, please show him an angel, please, you know, or you know,
flip the switch.
Right, wake up. But it wasn't happening, and it was hard. I balanced it through just dipping into myself for my own truth.
Yeah.
And I think if you can separate even your relationships around you and your environment and what's happening to you from who you really are as a divine being, and dip into that heart and feel the highest frequency that there is, which is love, self-love, and also love of the unknown. You can find a peace and a home. So through my meditation, through my work and advancement, I was getting more able to access that and more quickly. So that was the silver lining from all that hard work.
I love that, because it's right in the groove of Pollinating the Planet with Love, because we really are here to help shift chaos to bliss, which is our external environment, and loneliness to love, which is exactly what you're talking about, really finding that self-love, that inner wisdom, going in deep. Now, back to your husband, because he wrote a book. He's on he's the author. So the book is The Reluctant Healer.
The Reluctant Healer.
He gives you full credit for the cover, I think, for the guidance, the spiritual guidance behind it all. And I know vibrationally you were there every step of the way, sometimes biting your tongue, sometimes saying exactly what you thought. But I know that can't be easy. I mean, projects with loved ones in general can be very difficult. But talk about this from like a marriage standpoint, a book standpoint. How did this happen?
He would come home, and he would read me. I would tell him, we share a lot, we're close, and I would tell him what my experiences were with my healings.
Right.
And he would say, I'm putting it into my fictionalized blender, and he'd change things.
Fictionalized blender, I like that.
Yes, fictionalized blender, I liked it too. I said, well, this is your book, if you're going to fictionalize it, but wouldn't it be good if the aspects of your healing fiction were more accurate? So everything that he fictionalized, I would infuse with truth rather than his little whatever, to make it real and true. And even the names of certain characters I felt were off, so I would call in a better name for them and ask him. It was his book. Well, how about, I forgot what he had for my name originally, but in the book. And I said, Erica. It has to be strong, but yet a female. And because she was in
But
the
herein
book.
lies the question that I had at the end of the interview with him, which we didn't have time to get into. Why does it have to be fiction? And why did the character names have to be different? I know there was like certain things that weren't 100% like your life, but why?
Because this book was channeled through him. And even one of his fictionalized blender things, which were based on a real actual healer in reality, I tested with other colleagues, and it showed that it worked, that technique. Page 77 of The Reluctant Healer.
Okay.
If you're feeling blue or down or lonely, just read that for anything else. And it worked. And he said, get out of here. And I said, no, it worked. Why is this important? Because when you are guided by spirit to do something big, it is important to follow it through. Andrew wrote the book about 4 years before it came to be published. He put it on the shelf and said, I did the creative thing and that's it. I said, no, you have to get that out
to the world.
And out to the world. And he was going on a motorcycle trip, and I said, why don't we just cancel the motorcycle trip, pack up for 6 months, and you write this book, get it done. He said, no, I can't do that to my practice. Week later, he almost dies in the motorcycle trip. He's recovering for about a year and a half. The only thing he could do is type. So he takes the book down. So the silver lining again.
Isn't it always interesting?
Yes. Okay, the bad motorcycle, but the silver line. Okay, so why is it important? Let's get deeper. All right. It's very deep and very honest and real to say that this was not only for the greater good, to help people who are on the fence about these things. I mean, can a person, any old person, heal someone else? Not even being in the same room.
Yeah.
Okay? How does this work? People from the masses.
So
who are
was he
still-
asking this question as he's sitting there typing?
He's not aware of this. But he is the bridge. He is the bridge to have people go into that. And actually, this was the best thing, the Reluctant Healer, was the best thing for our relationship, because it gave him us a chance to really talk about it. And I could explain in a safe place, not convincing him, but through the book.
Right.
And after the book, it made me realize in our marriage that not everyone is supposed to be, everyone comes in with a different dharma and purpose. Mm-hmm. And Andrew's purpose, at least for now, is to be on the fence, to be that skeptic, so that other people could kind of be with him.
To ask the questions and just to get people to bring out the intention to be open.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Kind of like open to the magic, of things
be
outside of
open.
our comfort zone.
Exactly. So with that, I became more accepting. As in a loving relationship, I realized, wow, his purpose is outside of the box. Maybe I'm on the other side, and together as a couple, that's one of the reasons why the universe brought us together. And our daughter, Nicole, has become a screenwriter, and she's writing the screenplay for the book, for a film, which in the sky will probably manifest in 2 years. But I'm just saying that, isn't it interesting how the love between a man and a woman, a child that's born, created a triangle of love.
Yes.
So that it could pollinate the world in a bigger way.
Well, and one of the things I said to your husband, when I started my interview with him, which I'd be interested to hear what you think, is I said, I think you might be most spiritually conscious women's dream come true. Now, I know that there's a lot of stuff that's on the backside of this, right? So it's not all like peaches and cream as sometimes we think.
Right.
But is it really a dream come true for you to have him be this bridge?
Well, it wasn't my dream originally. As I morphed, I said, wouldn't it be nice to have someone who meditates with me and who listens to certain frequencies and CDs, etc. But I'm an only child. I like having my own thing and having someone else expand me. If you get someone just like yourself, it's just, you don't grow as much. Mm-hmm. So yes, there is the backside, which is uncomfortable, and you have to clean it or whatever. But you just, it doesn't always feel great and flowing, but yet it makes you stronger, and it changes you and deepens you. And I'm one of these people, I'll do whatever it takes to rocket me to the moon and beyond.
Yeah,
to the
I love
universe.
that. What pearl of wisdom might you have for a lot of women that are out there, like, hoping that their husband could have a little bit more openness to perhaps their more spiritually oriented, consciously oriented views and beliefs of the world?
Right. I do life coaching, so I have many people who are like that and different ages, which are interesting, because it supplies at every age this kind of schism that they want to be filled. When they're younger, they want a lot of things be filled, and I try to express that you can't get everything from one person.
Yeah.
And then as you grow and you're married, you realize that you have friends, you have interests, etc. But as you get older, if your spirituality becomes very strong and very central to who you are and how you function, and you have this man who's way outside of it, how I usually coach for that is to say that, again, to go inside yourself and develop that self-love and self-power and be the model of a beautiful soul, so that that man can't resist you. He's just, you become the flower that blooms, and he will want to just smell you and look at you and be
all
in
the
your
nectar.
presence. Right, presence.
I love that.
So
Yes.
that's really the core of it.
I like that. Now, you are working with angels.
Yes.
I want to hear all about that, because that's like a realm that I love to talk about.
Okay.
And how did you get into that? Because you have a lot of different really incredible talents and I think superpowers that have kind of come out in this lifetime, but for some reason it feels like your angelic work is something to really talk about.
It's the top. How did that begin? It began with Nicole had scoliosis of her back, and she wore a brace for a year and a half, 14 hours a day, when she was a teenager. And I was always, in my journey, always seeking more spiritual healers and work. And I came across a body, a friend who was the head of TM meditation in New York.
Transcendental meditation.
Yes, transcendental meditation. And he said, you got to see this person, you got to see that person. I would always go to see this and that healer and learn from them. But this one particular person was able to help Nicole in a major way. And I started working with his tools and having amazing, interesting experiences. And that expanded into deeper work with studying with him and just being in his field and learning how angels work. And I started to have different things channel through with so when I work as a healer, I don't even like to use that word anymore, because I feel like I'm not doing the healing. So I feel like I'm more of a facilitator of healing. It's like when people are in front of waiting for a bus and someone suddenly pulls back someone from getting hit. It was such an impulse, and they didn't even know how. They weren't even conscious of what went on, but it could be an angel, whisper, pull that person, get that person, save that life. And I just started to hear more things. And when I work with someone, I basically hear what's happening, or I get frequencies. Everything is frequency. The whole world,
energy,
everything is energy. So frequencies of illness are a different, every disease has a different frequency. And if you could just find the frequency, if you have permission from higher realms, divine realms, to find the frequency, you can just
obliterate it.
Yeah, put the right frequency with it and blow it up.
I
know it sounds like, oh, shouldn't it be all peace and hippie meditation, la la la. But it isn't about that. Right now, there are crucial things happening in the world, and we're being attacked by major microorganisms. Look at the corona virus. It's a virus. So we need, and we have, with certain permission, people have certain permission to prevent and annihilate what's happening around us. And Earth is at a very precarious place. And not only from the politics or the lack of water or climate warming, it's on an invisible basis. We're at a very crucial place.
Well, so, I agree, and that's why we're pollinating the planet with love.
That's why.
I'm curious how you see your work and the book all fit into helping pollinating the planet with love.
Because I think if people read that, expand, they're more open, they'll learn more, they'll realize that love is the highest frequency, and that with that love coming around them and in them and using it to pivot them for their life, they'll find happiness, they'll find balance, they'll be attuned, they'll be healthy. I'm not saying perfect health, because there is karma. I believe in karma, and you have to work out your karma, and there are all kinds of karma. But love is what will really help navigate this planet.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Okay, we're coming down to the end. Is there any final pearls of wisdom from the book, from your life's journey, that we should be sure to share today?
It's probably what my husband said, is just be open to change, be open to growth, be open to having no boundaries, and don't even worry about how your mind can or can understand certain phenomena. Just embrace the openness and love.
I love that. Yay. Yeah. Very, very good. Okay. And we can get the book on
Amazon and any bookstores, but Amazon is probably the quickest way, or
and if they want healings or anything with you, is that available to the public, or is that only on a very limited basis?
They can reach out to me, but understand that I have to go through a meditation and get soul permission and get angelic permission to work with them. So I don't work with everybody, but I try to help everyone.
And they should go to your website for that.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Energy,
we'll put all the links below.
Yes. energy-matters.us.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you
so much
on the show.
Beth. It was great.
Oh,
what?
I want to do one more thing.
What?
I have something called the Pollinating Love Mudra, and I know you would love this. Okay, so here's how we do it.
Okay.
You're willing to do it with me? Okay.
Yes.
We only need 4 things: your heart, your hands, your eyes, and most importantly, your intention to give and receive unconditional love. Okay, so take your hands, put your fingertips together, and then put your wrists together. It doesn't have to be perfect. Make a little lotus flower, right? So we've got the lotus flower. And then take the lotus flower. I like to put it up next to my heart, which is what we talked about on a break, about how important this is to make that contact. And then just for a moment, perhaps with your eyes closed, think of someone, something, someplace that brings you peace, joy, love. And when you get that in your heart, then just project it into the little lotus flower as much as you want. I oftentimes get a little ball of light. I know you're really good at this, so whatever you want to put into that little lotus flower. And when you've got it in there, I just invite you to open your eyes. And then we'll continue our eye contact with each other and share what's inside. So we'll gently blossom our lotus flower with our fingers opening, and then it kind of goes like this, just the opposite way up, and then we'll to each other, and then we'll sprinkle it out into the planet all around, coming back to namaste.
That's so sweet. A hummingbird flew in, so she flew out and it's sprinkling.
I love it.
You.
Yes, so thank you. Yes, wonderful. Okay, until next week, wishing you bliss so that you too can help in pollinating the planet with love.
Hear who's up next when you like my page, Beth Bell Live, and join me each week as I invite a new guest into the mobile recording studio to help in pollinating the planet with love.